Picture your driver right now, the one leaning in your bag, the one you paid $500 for because the Tour Pro told you it was longer. I want you to know something before your next round. That club might be the single biggest reason you lost 15 yards over the last 5 seasons. And I say that because it happened to me. I spent 11 years playing drivers that were quietly stealing my distance, not because they were broken, because they were built for a swing I no longer had. When I finally put mine on a launch monitor at 71 years old, the number that came back cost me a full club and a half of carry, 15 yards, gone, measured, not guessed. Here is the part that stings. Every one of those yards was recoverable with gear that already existed. I just kept buying the wrong thing. So today I am naming the 7 drivers that cost senior golfers strokes right now, the 3 that add 15 yards or more to a slower swing, and 1 buried fitting fact that gave me back more distance than any new club ever did. And all of it is measured at the swing speed you actually have today, not the one you had at 40. Let me take you back to the range session that broke me. It was a cold morning, maybe 52 degrees, and a younger fellow next to me was crushing it. So I asked to hit his club. His was nothing special. A 2-year-old model, regular flex. My swing speed that day was 83 miles per hour. His club carried my ball 9 yards farther than my own $500 driver. Same swing, same me, 9 yards from a club that cost half what mine did. That is when I understood the game had been rigged against my swing for years. So let me start with the first mistake, because I made it for the longest. The first driver costing senior strokes is the low spin tour model. You know the ones. The heads marketed as low spin, the ones ranked number 1 on every long drive list. I bought into that word low spin because I thought spin was the enemy. Everybody said backspin kills distance. And for a golfer swinging 110 miles per hour, that is true. But here is what nobody told me. At 83 miles per hour, low spin is a distance killer, not a distance builder. Here is the physics, and it is simple. A golf ball needs a minimum amount of spin to stay in the air and carry. The independent robot testing on this is clear. At a swing speed around 85 miles per hour, your ball wants roughly 2,500 to 2,800 revolutions per minute of spin to hold its carry. Those tour heads were dropping me down to 1,900, sometimes lower. My ball came off flat, ran out of gas, and fell out of the sky like a wounded duck. I was losing carry and blaming my body. It was the club. The fix is almost insulting in how easy it is. Stop buying the head that was engineered for the tour player. A slower swing needs help getting the ball up and keeping it there, not stripping spin away. When I moved out of that low spin head, I gained back somewhere between 6 and 8 yards of carry without swinging one bit harder. That is the mistake that cost me the most seasons, but it is not the one that cost me the most yards. That one is coming. The second driver stealing strokes is the one with the shaft you were told was your flex. And this one makes me angry because I trusted it for a decade. When I started slowing down, I was still playing a stiff shaft. Why? Because a real man plays stiff. Because regular flex felt like admitting something. That ego cost me more distance than any single piece of gear in my life. Let me give you the engineering. Shaft flex is not about strength. It is about matching the shaft's bend to the speed and tempo of your swing so the head arrives square and loaded at impact. Testing at slower swing speed shows a golfer under about 85 miles per hour loses both speed and launch with an overly stiff shaft because the shaft never fully loads and unloads. The head arrives dead. You lose launch angle, you lose the whip, and you lose the free speed a properly flexed shaft delivers. When I finally swallowed my pride and went to a regular flip and later a senior flex, my launch angle came up nearly 2 degrees and my ball speed climbed almost 3 miles per hour. Same effort. The shaft was doing work. My body no longer could. I had spent 10 years fighting a board when a slightly softer shaft would have handed me yards for free. Therefore, the lesson is brutal and simple. The flex on the label is marketing. The flex your swing needs is usually one step softer than your ego wants, But the shaft is not just about flex, it is about weight, and that leads me straight into the third mistake, which is even more expensive. The third driver costing senior strokes is the heavy one. And I do not mean the head, I mean the total weight, driven mostly by the shaft. For years, the premium shafts, the aftermarket upgrades everyone bragged about were 70, 75, even 80 grams. Heavy shafts were sold as stable, as controlled, as premium, and for a fast, strong swing, they can be. But for a senior swing that has lost a few miles per hour every decade, that weight is an anchor. Here is the number that changed my mind. Independent fitting data shows that dropping shaft weight from around 70 grams to the 50 or even 40 gram range can add 2 to 4 miles per hour of swing speed for a slower swinger. 2 to 4 miles per hour. Every 1 mile per hour of driver swing speed is worth roughly 2.5 to 3 yards a carry. Do that math. A lighter shaft alone can hand a senior golfer 6 to 10 yards, and it costs you nothing in your swing. You just have less to drag through the ball. I remember the day I tested a 50-gram shaft against my old 76-gram Brute. My swing speed jumped from 83 to nearly 87 miles per hour on the monitor. I actually laughed out loud because I had paid extra years earlier for the heavier shaft. I paid a premium to lose distance. That is the industry we are dealing with. And I promise you it gets worse before we get to the fixes. So let me tell you about the fourth driver, because this one hides behind a word that sounds like it is helping you. Adjustable. The fourth driver costing senior strokes is the over-adjustable head that you never actually adjusted correctly. Those drivers with the sliding weights, the movable tracks, the 12 loft settings on the hosel, they are marketed as fit for anyone. And technically that is true. But here is the trap I fell into. And I have read hundreds of senior golfers in the forums fall into the exact same one. We buy the adjustable head, we set it to the standard neutral setting in the store, and we never touch it again. The adjustability we paid a premium for just sits there. Worse, most of us set the loft too low. I had my adjustable driver set at 9.5 degrees for years because that is what the number said on my old gamer. So that is what felt right. At 83 miles per hour, 9.5 degrees of loft is a crime against your carry. The launch monitor showed my ball launching at barely 9 degrees, way under the window where a slow swing maximizes carry. All that adjustability, and I had dialed it to lose distance. The fix costs nothing if you already own one of these. Turn the hosel up, add loft. I bumped mine from 9.5 to 11.5 degrees, and my carry distance climbed almost 7 yards because the ball finally launched into the right window. We will come back to loft because it is at the heart of the biggest secret I found. But first, I have to confess the fifth mistake, and this is the one that wasted the most money. The fifth driver costing senior strokes is last year's release you bought this year at full price, and here is why that is a genuine mistake and not just me being cheap. The golf companies release a new flagship driver every single year. They have to keep the business running. But the honest truth, backed by independent robot testing year over year, is that driver performance has been nearly flat for the better part of a decade. The gains from one model year to the next are often inside the margin of error, 1 to 2 yards, if that, and sometimes nothing at all. I have the receipts on my own foolishness here. I upgraded 3 years in a row, spending roughly $1,500 total, chasing yards the marketing promised. When I put all three heads on the same monitor with the same shaft and the same ball, the total spread between the oldest and the newest was under 3 yards. 3 yards for $1,500. I was not buying distance. I was buying paint and a new name. Therefore, here is the practical move that actually adds value to your bag. Buy the driver that is 1 or 2 model years old, properly fit to your swing, and spend the savings on a real fitting and a proper shaft. A 2-year-old head with the right shaft and the right loft will outdrive a brand new head set up wrong every single time. The money is not in the model year. The money is in the fit, and almost nobody selling you a driver makes their commission on the fit. If you want every loft, window, shaft, weight range, and swing speed matched to the right setup laid out in one place, that is exactly what my ebook covers. Drive more, drive deeper, drive longer. It is the complete breakdown I wish I had 20 years ago, built specifically around the swing speed you have today. You will find the link in the description below. Now, before I name the 6th and 7th mistakes, I want to stop and talk directly to those of you who are not about to run out and buy anything. Maybe money is tight. Maybe you just bought a driver and you are not replacing it. This next part is for you specifically, because you can reverse most of these mistakes with the club already in your bag this weekend, and it will not cost you $1. Here is the first free fix. Grip down and check your loft. If your driver is adjustable, pull out that little wrench that came in the box, the one most of you have never touched, and add 1 to 2 degrees of loft right now. If you are under about 85 miles per hour, you almost certainly need more loft than you are playing. That single turn of the wrench moved my carry nearly 7 yards. It is the best free distance you will ever find. Here is the second free fix. Move the ball forward in your stance and tee it higher. A slower swing needs to catch the ball on the upswing to launch it high with less spin. Most seniors tee it too low and play it too far back, delivering a downward strike that turns their driver into a low-spinning line drive. Tee it so half the ball sits above the crown of the driver, play it off the inside of your lead heel, and let the club hit up. I picked up launch angle and carry doing nothing but moving the ball 2 inches forward and adding a half inch of tee height. Here is the third free fix, and this one is nearly a secret. Add a strip of lead tape to the back of your driver's sole, or ask a shop to add a few grams of weight low and back on the head. This raises the club's forgiveness, its resistance to twisting on off-center hits, which the engineers call moment of inertia. Slower, less precise swing lives on off-center hits. A few grams of weight in the right place can hold your ball speed together on the toe and heel strikes that used to fall out of the sky. Pennies of lead tape, real yards saved. That is the everyday bag fix. Now, let me get back to the mistakes, because the sixth one is one I see in almost every senior bag I look into. The sixth driver costing senior strokes is the anti-slice driver you bought that overcorrected you into a hook, or the neutral driver you bought when you genuinely needed help. And this one is about honesty with yourself. Most amateur golfers, and most seniors especially, fight a slice. That ball that starts left and sails right, leaking distance and finding the trees. The face is open at impact and the path is out to end. That is the miss that costs the average senior the most yards, because a slicing ball flight bleeds distance in the worst way, spinning sideways instead of carrying forward. The engineering answer to this exists, and it is called a draw-biased head, where the weight is set toward the heel to help the face rotate closed through impact. Independent testing shows a properly draw-biased driver can straighten out a slice enough to recover 10, 15, even 20 yards of effective distance, because the ball is finally flying at the target instead of curving away from it. But here is the trap. I bought a max draw driver once, and it hooked so hard I lost the fairway on the other side. The lesson is not to grab the most extreme model. The lesson is to be honest about your actual miss and match the bias to it, not to the marketing. And this is where I have to name the villains, because we are past the point where I can pretend this is all innocent. The reason you keep buying the wrong head, the wrong shaft, the wrong loft is that the entire retail system profits from selling you a club off the rack, in stiff, in low loft, in the flavor the tour pros play. The margins are on volume and on the new model, not on the fitting. The person selling you that driver almost never watches your ball flight on a monitor first. They ask your handicap, they hand you what is trending, and they ring you up. The fitting, the thing that actually adds your yards, is treated as an afterthought or an upcharge, because there is no fat commission in telling you your 2-year-old driver is fine and you just need more loft and a lighter shaft. That system cost me thousands of dollars and more than a decade of shorter drives. And it sets up the 7th mistake, the last one before I give you the 3 drivers that actually deliver, because the 7th is the one that quietly undoes everything else. The seventh driver costing senior strokes is the one that is simply too long, not too long in distance, too long in shaft length. Somewhere over the last 20 years, stock driver shafts crept out to 45 and even 46 inches, all in the name of manufactured swing speed. Longer lever, faster head, more distance, that is the theory. But the theory falls apart for real golfers, and it falls apart worst for seniors. Here is why. A longer shaft only makes you longer if you hit the center of the face. And the longer the shaft, the harder the center is to find. Testing has shown that most amateurs actually gain distance from a slightly shorter driver because the tighter, more centered contact produces more ball speed than the extra length ever added. When I had my driver cut down from 45.5 inches to 44.5 inches, I lost nothing in swing speed and gained almost 4 yards of carry purely because I started finding the center of the face. My dispersion tightened too, more fairways, more distance from a shorter club. So there they are, the 7 mistakes I lived: the low spin tour head, the too stiff shaft, the too heavy shaft, the adjustable headset wrong, the full price new release, the wrong bias head, and the too long shaft. Every one of them cost me yards. Together they cost me that 15 yards and change. I measured on the monitor at 71 years old. Now let me tell you what actually gave it back, because 3 types of drivers genuinely add 15 yards or more to a slower swing, and none of them are about brute technology. The first driver that adds real distance is the high launch, high forgiveness head with a lightweight shaft as the stock offering. These are the models built from the ground up for moderate swing speeds, not detuned tour heads. They carry more loft, they carry weight low and back for a high launch, and they come standard with a 50-gram or lighter shaft in regular or senior flex. When I moved into one of these properly, my launch climbed into the mid-teens, my spin settled into that 2500 window, and my carry jumped double digits over the tour head I had been stubbornly clinging to. This is the category, not any one brand, that most seniors should be looking at, and almost none are, because it is never the model on the tour truck. The second driver that adds real distance is the properly draw-biased head matched to a genuine slicer. If your miss is a slice, and for most of us over 60 it is, this is where your 15 yards is hiding in plain sight. Not by hitting the ball farther, but by hitting it straighter. So the distance you already produce actually goes forward. I watched a playing partner of mine, 74 years old, gained what the monitor called 19 yards of effective carry to the target the day he switched into a draw-biased head that finally killed his slice. 19 yards, and his swing speed never changed by a single mile per hour. The third driver that adds real distance is the one that has been professionally fit to you. Whatever the brand on the sole, I know that sounds like a dodge, but it is the most honest thing I can tell you. The single biggest distance gain of my life did not come from a brand. It came from an hour on a launch monitor with someone who adjusted loft, weight, shaft, and length until the numbers were right for my 83 mile per hour swing. That process on an old head I already owned gave me more yards than any new purchase ever did. The fit is the technology. Everything else is packaging, but I promised you a secret finale. One buried fitting fact that gave me back more distance than any new club. And I found it not in a marketing brochure, but in the launch monitor data itself, the kind of data the fitters see and the ads never show you. So here it is, and I want you to sit up for this one because it is simple enough to use this weekend. For years, I believed, like most golfers, that loft was about trajectory and nothing more. More loft, higher ball, less roll, less distance. That belief is exactly backward for a slow swing, and the data proves it. Here is the buried truth. At swing speeds under about 85 miles per hour, the optimal driver loft is not 9 or 10.5 degrees. It is somewhere between 12 and 16 degrees. Let me say that again, because it goes against everything the ego and the marketing taught us. A senior golfer often maximizes total distance with a driver lofted more like an old 3 wood. The reason is carry. A slow swing cannot generate the ball speed to make a low lofted ball climb and hold. Give that same swing more loft, and suddenly the ball launches into the ideal window, holds its spin, stays airborne longer, and carries farther before it ever touches the ground. The robot data on this is striking. Moving a swing in the low 80s from 10.5 degrees up to 14 degrees of loft can add 10 to 15 yards of carry because the ball is finally flying on the arc physics wants instead of the arc our pride chose. When I finally cranked my adjustable driver up to 13 degrees, the highest loft it would give me, and paired it with that lightweight regular flex shaft, the launch monitor showed the highest carry number I had seen in 15 years. I had spent a decade buying new heads, chasing distance, and the distance was sitting inside my old driver the entire time, locked behind a loft setting my ego refused to touch. That is the redemption. The fix was not $500. It was a wrench and the humility to add loft. So this weekend, do this. If your driver adjusts, set it to the highest loft it offers and go hit balls. Watch what happens to your carry. If it does not adjust, borrow a friend's 12 or 14 degree driver and hit 5 balls side by side with your gamer. I will bet you the price of a sleeve of balls that the higher loft carries farther. That is the secret. The tour-driven marketing will never put on a billboard because there is no glory in selling a senior a high-lofted driver, even though it is exactly the club that gives him his yards back. Here is what I want you to walk away feeling. You did not lose those 15 yards because you got old. You lost them because the gear you were sold was built for a golfer you never were. And every one of those yards is sitting there waiting for you behind the right loft, the right shaft weight, and the honesty to fit the swing you have today instead of the one you miss. You are not a golfer who overpays and stays quiet about it anymore. You are a golfer who knows the numbers now, who walks into that shop and ask about loft and shaft weight and center face contact while everyone else is staring at the shiny new model on the wall. So tell me, which of these 7 have you been playing? Is it the too stiff shaft your ego picked or the low loft setting you never touched? Go look at your driver right now, find the loft number on the hosel or the sole, and type it in the comments below. I read them, and I will tell you straight whether that number is stealing your carry. Do not just think it, comment it. Because this is the exact conversation the industry does not want us having out loud. And if you want the full breakdown, every loft window, every shaft weight, every swing speed matched to the right setup, that is what my ebook lays out step by step, and it is the next move for anyone serious about taking those yards back. If you are done losing distance quietly, done paying premium prices for the same mistake, then this is your group. Subscribe and stand with the seniors who refuse to overpay and refuse to lose yards without a fight. Because next time I am confessing the fairway wood mistake that is even more common than the driver one, the club almost every senior carries and almost every senior has set up completely wrong, and it is costing you strokes on the exact holes you think it is saving them. I measured that one too, and you are going to want to hear the number. I'm still with you, and I want to keep going. This video gave you the overview, but inside the Senior Fairway Club, I take it further, picking up right where I just stopped. And if you have a question, you ask me, and I answer you myself. Senior golfers like you are already in there with me. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen. Cancel anytime with one click. If this helped you sort out your driver, stick around. I've got plenty more right here to help you play easier, smarter golf. So go ahead and subscribe, and let's keep going together.